forward to finding who's here, and we'll hop right in, get 14 minutes or so of Minecraft going, and then dive into more Grimm's fairy tales. I think today I'm going to make sure I send some more invites. I got some different audio going this time. There we are. Gonna get straight to getting more sulfur, because sulfur is great. It burns things, at least in this game. And we're gonna make a safety spot right here. Oh, imagine that. More sermerite. It's not a safety spot. Okay, that works. More sermerite. We do need a safety spot though. Okay, it's right here. And there they are. Wow, right on cue, I guess, huh? Get off of me, you crazy bugs. Jeez. Freak me out every time. At least I was prepared for them. Okay. I'm barely prepared for him. Plenty of sulfur around, and I think I just saw something I don't want to step through. Yeah. Better safe. Ah, jeez, that spooked me. Light that up. I had more control over audio without losing focus on the content. Gathering sulfur, waiting for people to join. That's all the sulfur we'll bother with. Aside from on our way back, if we see any that's reachable. Ooh, more bones. Can always use more bones. Hey, hey, how we doing? How we? Am I gonna die? I did die. I died. That was fast. Hello, Apian. Minecraft for 9 more minutes, and then story time directly after. Hello, Andrina. Good to have you here. Welcome to the both of you. And hello. Why do I have all my items? Oh, all the items in my hotbar. There's my grave. I hope that the both of you are doing alright. And if not, I hope story time can help some of that. I like telling stories. I hope you enjoy listening. Hey, there you are, buddy. Ouch. Alright. We survived that one. Why is this not working? Munchin' on din-dins. That sounds delicious. Have to do with a bare hand. Okay, well, let's just see what happens. Sure. I don't... Okay. Alright, sure. We can do that. Hello, Cinder. Good to have you here. Welcome on in. You saw me make a fool of myself, I bet. Oh my goodness. What on earth just happened? Oh my goodness. Nice. Do I have to like break it with a... If graves aren't gonna... Oh great. Where are they? Come on, guys. Come on over. Yep, come on over. Come on. Tick, tick, tick. Oh, come on, guys. You can go faster than that. Come on. There you go. Get angry. Get mad. Crazy. I tell you what. Are you stuck? Okay. Alright. Are we done? Let me figure this out, please. It's not going to be done by teleporting, because that obviously kills me. So, now that I got completely engrossed in the game, tell me something. Tell me something nice about today. What happened that was notably pleasant? Nada. Cramps all day. Well, I'm hoping that those go away, first and foremost. Second of all, when they don't, if they don't, that you can enjoy some wonderful Brothers Grimm. Bring some stories about mutilation and child something becoming a queen at a young age in all the stories. You didn't kill anyone? Good job. I'm proud of you, sincerely. Oh dear. So I can teleport to the grave. But I can't open the grave. Like, what's the point? I had stuff that I wanted from there. I don't want to have to look this up, but I'm gonna. I have to stand and... Ah, okay. Duh. I have to stand and then sneak on it. Okay. The kitties took their first step outside in a harness. They didn't move and proceeded to give up. However, they experienced the outside. You ever keep them in the harness on a daily basis, even without a leash, and just leave them until they figure out how to move with it? That's what I was thinking of doing that with my cats, but I am unsure. Just got the harness a couple days ago. Yeah, definitely not used to it yet. Well, that'll change if you keep coaxing them. Maybe give them treats or whatever. More bugs. Okay. Good. Very good. I'm pleased to hear it. That's exciting. Get those kitties to go on adventures with you. That'll be good. Okay, the hour has nearly turned. I'm going to switch over to creative mode and find us a nice place to hang out during story time. I was thinking of doing this with Far Cry Primal as well at some point, but there is no immunity mode in Far Cry Primal, so it would end up just being me chasing away bandits or tribesmen while trying to survive and read a story at the same time. I think we'll go over the swamplands tonight. Yeah, it is a tired night. I'm glad that you're here. I appreciate your support. Let me know if my microphone volume needs to be picked up at all. Ooh. This is called The Elves. And it has a first story, a second story, and a third story. Each about a page and a half long. That's not so bad. But here we begin. We are approximately 15 minutes in. And we will go for as long as my speaking brain can take it. Hope you have a wonderful time listening. Chapter 21, Philip Pullman Fairy Tales from the Brothers Grimm. The Elves, first story. There was once a shoemaker who had come so poor, through no fault of his own, that he had hardly any leather left. Only enough to make one pair of shoes, in fact. He cut them out in the evening, intending to start work on them in the morning, and then went to bed. He had a clear conscience, so he said his prayers and then slept peacefully. Next morning he woke up, had a bite of dry bread, and sat down at his bench, only to find the shoes completed already. He was astonished. He picked them up and looked at them closely from all angles. Every stitch was neat and tight, nothing was out of place. He couldn't have done it better himself. A customer soon came in looking for shoes of just that size, and liked them so much he bought them at once for a good price. That gave the shoemaker enough money to buy leather for 2 pairs of shoes, so he did that, and as before, he cut them out in the evening, meaning to carry on in the morning in good heart. But he had no need to. When he got up, the shoes were already made, just as before, stitched as if by a master craftsman. He soon found customers for them, and that left him enough profit to buy leather for 4 pairs. And next morning they were finished, and he sold them, and so it went on. Each evening he cut the shoes out. Next morning they were finished, so that pretty soon he was making a good income, and not much later he was a wealthy man. One evening, not long before Christmas, he cut out a number of shoes as usual, and then said to his wife just as they were going to bed, "Why don't we stay up a bit tonight and see if we can find out who's been helping us?" His wife thought that was a good idea, and they lit the lamp and hid behind a rail of clothes hanging up in the corner of the workroom. At midnight, 2 little naked men squeezed in under the door and jumped up to the workbench, where they set to work at once, sewing together the cut-out shoes at a speed the shoemaker could hardly believe. They worked until they'd finished every one, and then they put the shoes on the bench and went out under the door. In the morning the shoemaker's wife said, "I think we should do something in return for those 2 little men. After all, they've made us rich, and there they are running about in the cold with nothing on. I'm going to sew them some shirts and jackets, and some underwear and some trousers, and knit a pair of stockings for each of them, and you can go make them each a pair of little shoes." "That's a good idea," said the shoemaker, and they set to work. That evening they set the clothes out on the bench instead of the cut-out shoes, and hid again to see what the little men would do. At midnight they came in and leapt up on the bench as before, intending to start work, and then they stopped, looking at the clothes and scratching their heads in puzzlement. Then they realized what they were for, and jumped for joy, put them on at once, and preened themselves, singing, "We're finer than we were before, we shan't be cobblers any more." They leapt up and about like a pair of kittens, on the chairs, the bench, the hearth, the window-sill, and finally they darted under the door, and were gone. They never came back, but the shoemaker prospered. All his work went well from then on, and he and his wife lived happy and wealthy till the end of their days. Second story. Once there was a poor servant girl who always worked hard and was diligent and neat in all she did. Every day she would sweep out the house and pile the rubbish outside the back door. One morning, just as she was about to start work, she saw a letter in among the rubbish. Since she couldn't read, she stood her broom in the corner and took the letter to her mistress. It turned out to be an invitation from the Elves, inviting the girl to stand as godmother at the forthcoming baptism of an elf child. "I don't know what to do, mum," she said. "No, it's difficult, Gretchen," said the mistress, "but I've heard that it's not right to turn down an invitation from the Elves." "I think you should accept." "Well, if you say so, mum," said Gretchen. The mistress helped her write a letter accepting the invitation. She left it where she'd found the other one, and when her back was turned it vanished, and shortly afterwards 3 elves turned up and led her to a hollow mountain. She had to bend her head a little to go in, but once she was inside she was amazed at the beauty of everything she saw, which was delicate and precious beyond description. The new mother was lying on a bed of the blackest ebony inset with pearly shells. The counterpane was embroidered with gold thread, the cradle was of ivory, and the little bathtub of solid gold. The baby was no bigger than her little fingernail. The girl stood in as godmother, and then she asked to go back home, because she was needed to work the next day, but the elves pleaded with her to stay with them just for 3 days. They were so persuasive and so friendly that she gave in, and had a fine time, They did everything they could to make her happy. When 3 days had gone by, she told them that she really must return home. They filled her pockets with gold and led her outside. She set off homewards and reached the house late in the morning, finding her broom still in the corner where she'd left it. She picked it up and started sweeping as usual, but was astonished when some strangers came out of the house and asked her what she was doing. It turned out that her old employer had died, and she hadn't spent 3 days in the mountain, as she'd thought, but 7 years. Third story. A mother had her baby stolen from his cradle by the elves, and in his place they laid a changeling, a little monster with a great thick head and staring eyes who did nothing but eat and drink. In distress she went to a neighbor and asked her advice. The neighbor told her to take the changeling into the kitchen, lay him on the hearth, and make a fire. Then she should take 2 eggshells and boil some water in them. That would make the changeling laugh, and as soon as he laughed, it would be all up with him. The woman did everything just as her neighbor said, and when she put the eggshells on the fire to boil, the blockhead sang out, "I'm as old as the Westerwald, but I've never seen anyone try to boil water in an eggshell," and he roared with laughter. As soon as he did that, a crowd of little elves appeared, carrying the rightful child. They set him on the hearth, and took the changeling away, and the woman never saw them again. Well, aren't elves cheeky little fellows? Yes, indeed. And on we are to chapter 22, as the sky begins to rumble above us. The Robber Bridegroom. There was once a miller who had a beautiful daughter. When she came of age to be married, he thought he should look out for a suitable husband for her. If anyone respectable comes along, he said to himself, I'll give her to him. Word got around, and before long a gentleman appeared to ask about this beautiful daughter. The miller interviewed him, and found no fault with him, and promised that he could marry her. Boom, boom. However, the daughter didn't take to him at all. There was something about him that she didn't trust, and what's more, whenever she thought about him or heard his name mentioned, she felt her heart contract with horror. One day the prospective bridegroom said to her, You know, my dear, we're engaged to be married, but you've never paid me a visit. Why not come to my house? After all, it will soon be your own home. I don't know where your house is, the girl said. It's out in the forest, he told her. A beautiful situation, you'll see. I don't think I'll ever be able to find my way there, she said. No, you must come on Sunday. I've already invited some guests. They're looking forward to meeting you. I'll make a trail of ashes so you can follow it through the trees. On Sunday the girl felt an awful foreboding. She'd rather do anything than set off through the woods to the bridegroom's house. She filled her pockets with peas to mark the trail in case anything happened. At the edge of the forest she found that trail of ashes, and after every step she threw a couple of peas to left and right. She walked almost the whole day till she came to a part of the forest where the trees grew so thick and high that it was dark underneath them, and there, right in the heart of the woods, she found the bridegroom's house. It was dark and silent, and seemed to be deserted. There was no one inside but a bird in a cage, and he was no comfort either, because all he could sing was, Turn back, get out, go home, take care, this is a murderer's house, beware. She looked up at the bird and said, Can't you tell me any more than that, little bird? The bird sang again, Turn back, get out, go home, take care, this is a murderer's house, beware. Wah. The bride wandered from one room to another, but she didn't see anyone till she went down to the cellar. There she found a very old woman sitting by the light of a fire, shaking her head. Please, can you tell me if my bridegroom lives here? Said the girl. Oh, you poor child, replied the old woman. Why ever did you come to this house? It's a den of murderers. You talk of a bridegroom. The only bridegroom you'll be marrying is death. See this big pot of water on the fire. They made me set it there to boil. When they turn up, they're going to chop you into pieces and throw you in the pot, cook till you're tender and eat you all up. They're a pack of cannibals. Now I've taken pity on you because you're a poor innocent thing, and besides you've got a pretty face. Come over here." Yep. Never go to the mysterious basement, especially when there's a bird saying, "It's a bad place to be." The old woman led her behind a large barrel where she was out of sight from the rest of the cellar. "Stay there and don't make a sound," she said. "If they hear you, that's the end of you. When they're asleep later on, we'll escape." No sooner had she said this than the band of murderers came home, dragging with them another girl whom they'd captured. She screamed and sobbed, but they were drunk and took no notice of her pleas for mercy. They forced her to drink a glass of red wine, then one of white, then one of yellow, and the third one was too much for her, and her heart burst apart. Then they tore off her fine clothes and laid her on the table before chopping her in pieces and sprinkling her with salt. The poor bride-to-be behind the barrel trembled in every limb, seeing what fate the murderers had had in mind for her. Then one of them saw a gold ring on the dead girl's finger. He took an axe and chopped the finger off, but it flew in the air and right over the barrel and into the bride's lap. He couldn't see where it had gone, so he took a light and looked for it. Yeah, bit of a rough experience there. Another murderer said, "Look behind the big barrel, I think it went over there." But the old woman called out, "Come and eat your supper, the finger won't run away, you can find it in the morning." "She's right," said the others, and they pulled up chairs and sat down to eat. The old woman poured a sleeping draught in their wine, so that before they'd even finished eating they all slumped to the floor and fell asleep. When the bride heard them snoring, she crept out from behind the barrel. She had to step over the sleeping murderers where they all lay on the cellar floor. She was terribly afraid she'd step on one and wake him up. "Dear God, help me," she whispered, and she got to the cellar steps safely, where the old woman was waiting. They crept upstairs, opened the door, and hurried out as fast as they could. It was all well that the girl had brought peas to throw on the ground, because the ashes that showed the path had all blown away. The peas had sprouted, though, and in the moonlight they could be seen. And they followed the trail all the way to the mill, where they arrived just as the sun was rising. The girl told her father everything that had happened, from beginning to end, and the old woman confirmed it. When the wedding day arrived, the bridegroom appeared, smiling all round and being pleasant to everyone. The miller had invited all his relations and all his friends, and they were impressed by this handsome, friendly man. As they sat down to eat, each guest was asked to tell a story. The bride said nothing at all as they listened to the stories going round the table, and finally the bridegroom said, "Come on, my darling, haven't you got a story to tell? Just tell us something." So she said, "All right, I'll tell you about a dream I had. I was walking in the forest when I came to a dark house. There wasn't a soul in sight. There was only a little bird in a cage that said, 'Turn back, get out, go home, take care, this is a murderer's house, beware.' It said that twice, but my dear heart, it was only a dream. I went through all the rooms, and although there was no one there, something was uncanny about the place. Finally I went down to the cellar, where I found an old woman shaking her head. I said to her, 'Does my bridegroom live in this house?' She said, 'Alas, poor child, you're in the house of a murderer. Your bridegroom does live here, but he's going to chop you into pieces and cook you and eat you.' 'That isn't so,' said the bridegroom. 'Dear heart, don't worry, it was only a dream. The old woman hid me behind a great big barrel, and as soon as I was there the robbers came back, dragging a poor girl with them, screaming and pleading for mercy. They forced her to drink 3 glasses of wine, 1 red, 1 white, and 1 yellow, and that made her heart burst apart, so she died.' 'That isn't so, and it wasn't so,' cried the bridegroom. 'Dear heart, sit still, it was only a dream. They took off her fine clothes, laid her on the table, and chopped her to pieces, and sprinkled salt on them.' 'That isn't so, and it wasn't so, and God forbid it should be so,' shouted the bridegroom. 'Dear heart, stay where you are. It was only a dream.' Then one of the robbers saw a gold ring on the poor girl's finger. He took an axe and chopped it off, and the finger flew through the air and landed in my lap, and here's that finger with the ring." With those words she held up the finger and the ring so that everyone could see. The bridegroom, who had become as white as chalk, leapt up and tried to escape, but the guests seized him and held him tight, and then marched him to the court. Soldiers were sent out to capture the rest of the band, and they were all put to death for their wicked deeds. What a pleasant experience. Oh dear. Well, that just goes to show you. Don't go around eating people. Chapter 23. Godfather Death. A poor man had 12 children. I should just end it there. That's enough of a story for me. A poor man had 12 children, and had to work day and night just to get them a little food to eat. So when his wife gave birth to a 13th, he didn't know what to do, and he ran out into the road, thinking he might as well ask the first person he met to stand godfather. The first person who came along was God himself. Since he knew everything, he didn't have to ask what was on the man's mind. "My poor man," he said, "I'm sorry for you. I'd be glad to hold your child at his baptism. I'll look after him, don't you worry about that." "Who are you?" said the man. "I am God." "Well, be on your way. I don't want you for a godfather. You give to the rich who don't need it, and you let the poor starve." Of course, he only said that because he didn't know God's purpose in being so kind to the rich and so cruel to the poor. He went on his way, and the next person he met was a gentleman dressed in the finest clothes. "I'd be glad to help," he said. "Make your child's godfather, and I'll make me your child's godfather, and I'll give him all the riches of the world, and I'll make sure he has a good time, too." "And who are you?" "I'm the devil." "What? I don't want you for a godfather. You deceive people and lead them into sin. I've heard all about you." So he went on, and the next person he met was an old man tottering toward him on withered legs. "Take me as your child's godfather," the old man said. "Who are you?" "I am Death, and I make everyone equal." "Then you're the one," said the poor man. "You take away the poor, and you take away the rich. You shall be godfather to my child." "That's a wise decision," said Death. "I'll make your child rich and famous. Anyone who has me for a friend can't fail." "Next Sunday, then," said the man. "Make sure you turn up on time." Death appeared at the baptism just as he'd promised, and swore all the vows, and behaved with perfect propriety. So the boy grew up, and when he became of age, his godfather came to the house and said, "Come with me, young man." The boy followed his godfather out into the forest, where the old man showed him a particular herb. "This is a present from your godfather," he said. "I'm going to make you a famous physician. Whenever you're called to the bed of a sick person, just look around and you'll see me. If I'm standing by the patient's head, you can tell his family that all will be well. Then give him a little of this herb, any way you like. Give him a leaf to chew, make some tea from the flowers, grind the roots up into a paste and make pills. Doesn't make any difference." Well, I think we have a visitor. Sorry for the eerie whispering. Got a bit of a gas cloud made of spirits floating by. Maybe it'll shoo away. Shoo, shoo, cloud of spirits, go. I will let them whisper while we talk. "But if I'm standing at the foot of the bed, he belongs to me, remember? You have to say there's no help for him. No doctor in the world could save him. Now this will always work, but watch out. If you give the herb to anyone who belongs to me, something very bad will happen to you." The young man did as his godfather said, and it wasn't long before he was the most famous doctor in the world. People were amazed by his ability to know at once whether the patient would live or die, and they came from every country in the world to consult him, and gave him so much money that he soon became a very wealthy man. Now it so happened that the king of that country fell ill. The famous physician was sent for, and the courtiers asked him to say whether the royal patient was likely to survive. However, when the young man entered the bedroom, he saw his godfather standing at the foot of the bed. The king was doomed. That wasn't what the king's family wanted to hear, of course. If only I could contradict my godfather just once, thought the physician. He'll be angry, no doubt, but I am his godson, after all. Maybe he'll overlook it. I'll risk it anyway. So he turned the patient round so that Death was standing at his head, and gave him a decoction of leaves to drink, and pretty soon the king was sitting up and feeling much better. However, immediately the young man was alone. They missed a verb in this sentence, and I'm going to let y'all figure out what it was. However, immediately the young man was alone. Nope, that was my bad. Immediately the young man was alone. Death came to him, frowning darkly and shaking his finger. No, still a wrong sentence. You tricked me, he said. I take a very dim view of that. I'll overlook it this time because you're my godson, but try it just once again and you'll be sorry, because I'll take you away with me when I go. Not long afterwards, the king's daughter fell gravely ill. She was his only child, and the king wept day and night until his eyes were so swollen he could barely see. He announced far and wide that whoever could cure her would marry her and inherit the kingdom. Naturally, the young man was among those who came to try. And once again, when he entered the sick room, there was Death standing at the patient's feet. This time, though, the young man hardly saw his godfather, because after one look at the princess's face, he was lost. She was so beautiful that he could think of nothing else. Death was frowning and snarling and shaking his fist, and the young man hardly noticed. He turned the princess round, gave her 2 pills, and presently she was sitting up with the color returning to her cheeks. But Death, having been cheated for a second time, was in no mood to wait. He seized the physician with his bony hand and said, "Right, my boy, you're done for now." And he pulled him away from the princess's bedside, and away from the palace, and away from the town, and his ice-cold grasp was so firm that the young man couldn't pull free, no matter how hard he tried. Death led him to a great cavern under the mountains, where thousands and thousands of candles were burning, some of them tall, some of them medium-sized, and others so short they were on the point of going out. In fact, at every moment some candles did go out, and others elsewhere suddenly came alight, so that the little flames seemed to be leaping about from one spot to another in constant movement. "See these candles," said Godfather Death. "Every one alive on this earth has a candle burning down here. The tall ones belong to children, the middle-sized ones to married people in the prime of life, and the little ones to old people. Mostly, that is. Some people who are only young have a very short candle." "Which one is mine?" said the young man, thinking that his candle was bound to have a long way to burn down yet. Death pointed to a little stump where the flame was already guttering. The young man was horrified. "Oh, Godfather, dear Godfather, light another one for me, I beg you. I long to marry the princess. You know why I had to turn her round. I fell in love with her at once. I couldn't help it. Please, dear Godfather, let me live my life." "That's impossible," said Death. "I can't light another one without letting the first go out." "Oh, I beg you, please, put this one on top of a new one so it can carry on burning when the first one's finished." Death pretended that he was going to do that, and he took a new long candle and set it up right before taking the little stump that was nearly out. But he was determined to have his revenge, and in tipping it over to light the new one, he let the old flame go out. The physician fell to the ground at once, for he was equal to everyone else. He had fallen into the hands of Death. Well, don't cheat death, y'all. It's bad for your physique. And this next story looks like it's going to be a little bit too long for me to muddle through. But it shall be Chapter 24, The Juniper Tree, which we shall hold for another time. Yeah, that was pretty scary. I enjoyed the I enjoyed the spirit that the little cloud of souls coming to wail in front of us while I read part of that story. I don't know if you were able to hear them or not. Let's see if there's another one. Probably not. It's a little too dark for me to be able to navigate very well. But yeah, those were some fun stories. I enjoyed reading them, and I'm very appreciative that all of you have come to enjoy the stories with me. That was very pleasant. And I think that will be done for now. So who all was here? That was Apian, Cinder, Andrina, Commander Root, Alexis, Alice, Maddie, and Sophia. If you were listening, thank you very much. I really appreciate it. Thank you very, very much for being here. I'm going to go ahead and hop off for now, and I hope each of you have a wonderful night and morning, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.